This is Andrew Huberman.
Before we begin, I'd like to emphasize that this podcast is separate from my teaching and research roles at Stanford.
In 2021, just a few years ago.
Hold on. Wait, what is this?
Spoil the whole show. Honestly, is there even a way to spoil it?
Don't go off the road.
Oh, sorry.
Bro, what the f?
I didn't know that the cruise control went off, but I got the car and is there even a way to spoil it?
Don't go off the road.
Oh, sorry.
Bro, what the f?
I didn't know that the cruise control went off, but I got the car in shape.
Oh, we would crash so
I'm telling you,
bad
Emily.
today.
Sometimes
No,
it
we're
goes.
not gonna
You gotta lock it in,
crash.
girl.
I thought the cruise control.
Now imagine if I didn't say anything from the back seat. We're off the road and we're dead.
I saw it. No. I'm a great driver.
So somebody asked in chat who's driving. I think Nick is driving.
Spoil the whole show.
Wait, is there like a lane guidance system? Does it just randomly turn off? What happened?
Honestly, is there even
Does it just randomly shut off? Because she's saying cruise control, but what she really means is there's on a lot of car. No, I don't know how many cars, but on some cars there's it's like a lane auto guiding thing that will basically keep you centered in the lane. Lane assist, maybe? Yeah, I don't know. Does it just like randomly turn off? Mine does if you take your hands off the steering wheel. Oh.
a way to spoil it?
Don't go off the road.
Destiny, if you were on a trip with somebody like this, how many passes would you give them before you took over? I'm about to drop the hottest take in chat. Are you ready for the hottest take you've gotten in your entire life? Are you ready? I don't know anything about the rest of her streams or anything at all. But just based on this video, I would assume that Emily is an above average driver. That would be my guess. Because I think that a really shitty driver
Don't go off the road.
would have dramatically overcorrected here and crashed the car. That's what I thought was going to happen when it was going off. So the lane assist obviously turned off. She didn't realize it.
Don't
Nick
go
did.
off the road.
But I would have expected a massive overcorrection here, and there wasn't. So you know what? Props to that.
Oh, sorry.
Bro, what the fuck?
I didn't know that the cruise control went off, but I got the car.
Here's another clip of her crashing the car. Okay, well.
Yeah, me too.
You just go this way?
Yeah, it just popped.
After the hill.
I'm gonna urine and we can get some.
Oh!
Emily, you just drove straight up the curb.
Didn't see that.
Yeah, it just popped.
After the hill.
I'm gonna urine and
Just go this way?
Yeah, it just popped.
After the hill.
I'm gonna urine and we can get some.
Oh!
Emily, you just drove
Crashing
straight
a car?
Didn't see that.
You just drove.
It's a gas station curb. Listen, that's a stealth curb. Those are hard to see, okay? Who cares? It's fine. They're fine.
My ears
We
closed.
need to get gas.
Yeah, me too.
You just go this way?
Yeah, it just popped.
After the hill.
I'm gonna urine and we can get some.
Oh!
Emily, you just drove straight up the curb.
Didn't see
You
that.
just drove straight up
I
a
didn't
curb, you
see a
fucking
curb.
idiot.
It's all good.
It's fine.
all
Go
good.
straight.
I'm sorry.
No, you're
It's
okay.
fine. It's
There's a
fine.
curb.
It's fine.
Just keep going. It's okay. No one cares. Let's go.
Car's too
When
high.
lane assist is
Couldn't
off,
see that.
should it make an alert of sound of some kind? Yeah, I don't know. I've only driven one Volvo before that lane assist thing. And usually what will happen is if you take your hands off the wheel, because the drive north in Sweden was like an 8-hour drive, it'll start beeping at you saying, put your hands on the wheel or hands on wheel or some bullshit, yeah.
And it's
And I
fine.
have sunglasses on.
It's okay.
I'm gonna
But
be-
You did just drive up a curb.
No, I'm gonna be
Sorry.
honest, Emily.
Did you ever give your take on the MKB HD speeding? Yeah, I don't understand listen, I'm all in favor, speed, okay? Because in a video game. There are other factors I look at to determine if I think somebody's being reckless or not. That being said, what was it, like 95 in a 35 or something? Bruh. Jesus. If he was going like 45 or 50, maybe sure. 95? Bruh. Holy fuck. Chill. Jesus.
This is Andrew Huberman.
Before we begin, I'd like to emphasize that this podcast is separate from my teaching and research roles at Stanford.
In 2021, just a few years ago,
That guy's a teacher and researcher at Stanford?
Huberman had what seemed like a definitive stance on blue light and circadian rhythms.
It doesn't matter if you block the blues.
Yeah,
If you're looking at bright light at night, you're going to disrupt your circadian cycle.
Absolutely.
He even sort of made fun of companies that sold gimmicky products to block blue light.
The concept of blue light being bad led to a lot of product development.
But last month, he changed his tune.
Roca and I designed these glasses, which, as you can see, have red lenses that filter out the specific short wavelengths of light that activate the cells that wake you up.
Did a lucrative sponsorship opportunity change his opinion on settled science? Or was this, in reality, a gift to his audience?
It is, however, part of my desire and effort to bring zero cost to consumer information about science and science-related tools to the general public.
Maybe the sponsorship was a necessary tool to keep the lights on at Huberman HQ.
In keeping with that theme, I'd like to thank the sponsors of today's podcast. Our first sponsor is Roca.
And you can thank these very special sponsors, too, if you just...
Okay, this guy, 0 books.
Our first sponsor is Roca.
And you...
This guy, library books. How does Huberman even have a chance?
You can thank these very special sponsors, too, if you just...
Enter the code Huberman to get 20% off your first order.
Which sort of begs the question. How much money does it...
Oh, uses begs the question incorrectly, though. That's supposed to be something where you are basically positing the conclusion in the question itself. Not that you are raising a question. These are two distinctly different terms. Big points off. Beg the question used improperly. Big points off. That triggers me. Okay, let's keep going. So he was up 1, now he's down 1, now it's even. 0 to 0.
Huberman to get 20% off your first order.
Which sort of begs the question. How much money does it take to change Huberman's opinion on settled science?
I could imagine that he stands to make millions, especially if he's getting a significant portion of sales.
Just based on what I charge, I don't think I would do any deals if they were under $500,000, maybe even $1 million with his audience and his influence.
This is really like what you would call conflicts of interest. It seems very strange that someone who professes that he's providing things at zero cost is doing something like this, because you don't need glasses like this.
Blue filter glasses. It seems like a brilliant idea, except that studies have shown that it probably doesn't work.
And I have to ask.
Are we going to ask, who made his glasses? Pretty convenient that you're shitting on blue glasses while you're wearing the clear glasses. The direct competitor of the blue glasses, but okay.
Studies have shown that it probably doesn't work.
And I have to ask, are these partnerships even legal under FDA guidelines that outlaw making specific health claims for these kinds of products?
Practically, wearing red lens glasses such as these can keep what's called your cortisol, a stress hormone, low. These lenses allow you to transition to a calm and sleepy state, to wind down.
So let's dig in and figure out what's really...
I think that if you carefully qualify it, like, so he said, like, they can reduce your cortisol. They can do that. I think these things keep you safe from FDA regulations, I think.
going on with the most popular science communicator on the internet, Andrew Huberman.
Is he really the most popular?
A few years ago, when Huberman appeared on the podcast scene, it seemed like there was finally a voice of reason and a source for unbiased scientific information that everyone could trust.
Welcome to the Huberman Lab podcast, where we discuss science and science-based tools for everyday life.
Yes.
What could be better than a plain-speaking Stanford professor digging into a mountain of scientific literature and distilling everything down into discrete science-based protocols for the everyman?
Okay.
After all, most of his recommendations were free. Get early morning sunlight to set your circadian rhythm. Do a little light yoga meditation.
Welcome to this 20-minute non-sleep deep rest protocol.
Get cold and get hot and
Non-sleep deep rest Hell yeah, I'm ready.
work out. He brought on people who he said were the top scientists in their respected fields when he strayed out of his core expertise of ophthalmology. It really did seem that his audience was getting a great deal on a free Stanford education. He was speaking science on Rogan and fighting back against poorly researched bro scientists and wellness grifters. From Dave Asprey
I have doubled my deep sleep by using the glasses I made for sleep.
to Ben Greenfield.
Is deep sleep even the good sleep? I thought REM sleep was your most restorative sleep. I think all the stages are important, but if you're doubling your deep sleep, doesn't that imply that you're taking away from other stages of sleep? Would that, like, if you double your deep sleep, is that, or is it just extending your whole sleep cycle, which would reduce the number of sleep cycles you have? Is that even a good thing? I don't know. Maybe it is.
Hey, I'm Ben Greenfield. If you see me wearing blue light blocking glasses,
That is deep sleep. No, I believe that deep sleep is the third stage of sleep and REM is 4. I thought that REM was like the most restorative stage. Like, I thought they'd done sleep studies, and if you interrupt somebody's REM sleep, but you allow them to sleep throughout the whole night, when they wake up, they're basically completely unrested. But I could be wrong on that. Oh no, there's 5 stages of sleep. I'm sorry. Wake, really? Okay, Mr. Arrays start at 0. Okay. Wake, N1, N2, N3, and REM. N3 is a deep sleep stage. 2 is a more sleep stage. Don't weed dudes. I thought I had said a retarded word there. Like it was supposed to be read dudes. Don't weed dudes get like 0 REM sleep? I have no idea.
Glasses, 9 times out of 10, I'm wearing the raw optics version.
And whoever this is?
So everybody loves the red glass.
9 times out of 10.
The raw optics version?
From Dave Asprey.
I have...
Okay, hold on. What is this? Dave Asprey doubled deep sleep. What? How do I find the Instagram? Bro, why is Google? Okay. Stop!
There's a study from Japan, 800 and something adults. They found a 68% increase in depression from the amount of light that comes around curtains in the average city. Just
a 68% change in depression based on the light around curtains. So that's a very huge effect size on a relatively obscure thing, but okay.
Street lights. So you need to black your room out. So black out your curtains, and if you have to just to try this for a night, put up aluminum foil. Your neighbors will hate you. Then you go through, and this is critically important. Every LED in your room, especially the green, blue, and yellow, you got to put a little piece of electrical tape over them or just unplug them. The True Dark Glasses company makes little dots you can put on them as well. Whatever it is, when you open your eyes, you see nothing. You shouldn't see your alarm clock, nothing. And sleep.
Why do you need special glasses for this? Can't you literally just get like a fucking, like instead of doing all of this blackout shit, why not just get a fucking sleep mask? Jesus Christ, 143. I feel like for 20 bucks, you can probably get a decent blackout mask. Just like, what? How much does this cost? Like, boom, there you go. $6. Or spend 12 bucks and get 2 and put one up here, one down here for not covering your full eyes. Or get 4 and wear them like this. Like, why do we need to do why do we have to put tape on all of our LEDs and get the crazy glasses?
Being in a black room, you wouldn't even believe how you feel in the morning. And since you're already doing that, you might as well turn your thermostat down to 68 degrees, which also signals to your body, oh, it must be nighttime because it's cooler. And that combination, you wake up and you're like a new person.
Fuck me, I don't care. I have nothing else going on today. Japan, sleep, study, curtains, black out, depression. Bedroom light exposure at night and the incidence of depressive symptoms. Okay, so not depression, but incidence of depression symptoms is a different thing. But okay, a longitudinal study of the Haijokyo cohort. Okay, published in 2017. Thank you, Russia. Okay, never mind, fuck you. Thank you, .ren, whatever country. Fuck you. Oh, never mind. Just kidding. Thank you. Oh, it's from the country of Denmark. Previous studies have indicated that minimal exposure to light at night increases depression risk. Even at 5 lux in nocturnal and diurnal mammals. Although such low light levels at night may be effective for human circadian physiology, the association between exposure to light at night and depressive symptoms remains uncertain. Bedroom light intensity was measured objectively, and depressive symptoms were assessed between 2010 and 2014 in Nara, Japan. Of the 863 participants, mean age 71.5 years. Damn, these were some old motherfuckers. Okay. Wait, nicer copy? Wait, why is this one only 8 pages? Okay. Average age in Japan? Some of the participants reported development of depressive symptoms during follow-up. Okay, sorry. The Side one says unedited manuscript across the front. Yeah, I guess this is like the one they submitted or the before they had it formally registered. Okay. Previous studies indicated minimal association between exposure to light at night. If for a certain person study, bedroom light intensity was measured objectively. Okay. Of 863 participants who did not have depressive symptoms at baseline, 73 participants reported development of depressive symptoms during follow-up, median 24 months, compared with the dark group. The light at night group exhibited a significantly higher depression risk, hazard ratio 1.89, meaning almost twice as much. Is that what that means? According to a Cox proportional hazards model adjusting for age, sex, body mass index, and economic status, further, the significance remained in a multivariable model adjusting for hypertension, diabetes, and sleep parameters. Sensitivity analyses using bedroom light data with a cutoff value of over 10 lux suggested consistent results. In conclusion, these results indicated that exposure to light at night in home settings was independently associated with subsequent depression risk, or at least symptoms of it, in an elderly general population. Okay. That's interesting. All right. We analyzed data from a particular cohort focusing on, what does this cohort mean? I don't know what this means. Is this a special Japanese like group that you research, or? Thank you. Community dwelling elderly patients or participants. Is this like old person's home, or what does this mean? Was the capital of Japan during, oh wait, is this a fucking city? Just kidding. Was the capital of Japan during most of the Nara period from blah, blah, blah? No. Okay, it's just a city. Focus on the housing, environment, and health outcomes among 1,127 community-dwelling elderly individuals aged over 60 years, at or equal 60 years, most retired from their work, to minimize the effect of office environments in current work. A baseline survey was conducted during 2010 to 2014. The study protocol was reported previously. In brief, the homes of participants were visited predominantly on weekdays, and demographic and medical information were obtained using a standardized questionnaire. We then initiated measurements of bedroom light intensity and instructed the participants to maintain a standardized sleep diary for 2 nights. A follow-up survey regarding depressive symptoms was conducted between August 2014 and January 2015 using a validated tool. All participants provided written informed consent. The study protocol was approved by Nara Medical University's Ethics Committee. Okay. Bedroom light intensity during the nighttime, self-reported bedtime to rising time, was measured for 2 consecutive nights at 1-minute intervals using a portable light meter, which was placed facing the ceiling at the head of the participant's bed, 60 centimeters above the floor. Okay. 3 different parameters were defined: average intensity of nighttime light exposure, total time of nighttime light intensity, and total time of nighttime light intensity of over 5 lux, 10 lux. Okay. Depressive symptoms were measured at baseline and follow-up using a geriatric depression scale. 15, okay. And then they measured covariates. Okay. All right, results. Of 1,108 participants who completed the GDS questionnaire and LAN exposure measurement, 177 were excluded on the basis of reporting depressive symptoms or on the basis of being diagnosed with depression and receiving antidepressants at baseline. If we're already having depression, would that make sense? If all of them were massively overrepresented? That's probably fine. Doesn't matter. Okay. So you obviously you get rid of the people that have depression before you do it. Otherwise, okay, that's probably fine. Okay. Of the remaining participants, 863, they participated in a follow-up assessment, completed the GDS questionnaire. Participants reported development of depressive symptoms. Okay, hold on. We've got, during follow-up, 73 participants reported development of depressive symptoms. A longitudinal analysis using the Cox proportional hazards model showed that the LAN group exhibited a significantly higher depression risk than the dark group, hazard ratio 1.78. The significance remained after adjustment for age and sex. age, sex, and basic parameters, and household income. In addition, the significance of the hazard ratio is just the percentage likelihood of experiencing some negative thing compared to it's like a hazard ratio of 2.0 or 2.00 would mean that you're twice as likely. It would mean that like if it was n equals 1,000 on both sides and 100 people experienced a bad thing on one side and 200 on the other, that would be a hazard ratio of 2.0, right? I'm pretty sure that's what a hazard ratio means. Significance of the associated light exposure with incident depressive disorder remain after adjustment for morning light exposure. So these are the people with more or equal to 5 lux, which is 153 people, and then these are people with less than 5 lux, and these are 710 people. Duration in bed minutes, 523, and then in parentheses it says 81.5. What does that mean? What does the in parentheses thing mean? Oh, is it the within the first deviation? The standard deviation? Yeah, okay. So the people who have the light spend on average 35 more minutes in bed, I guess, as well. Sucks. Losers. I think, if I'm reading this correctly, right? Why is the cutoff max at 5 lux? I think they said that in previous studies that seemed to be a decent cutoff or whatever. Okay, follow-up duration. These are the people that had depressive, number with incident depressive symptoms. So 21 from the over 5 lux light group had depressive symptoms, and then 52 with the less than 5 lux group had depressive symptoms. Okay. And then they're measuring this with over a 6 on the GDS, whatever that was, the geriatric depressive symptom inventory, I think. Okay. I wonder what their, okay, the discussion. The study identified land exposure in home settings as an independent risk factor for depressive symptoms in a general elderly population. To our knowledge, this for longitudinal evidence for the association between land exposure and depressive symptoms in humans. The observational method used here is considered the best study design to evaluate the long-term effects of land exposure on mood, because an interventional method, such as a randomized controlled trial using a land exposure, is not possible because of ethical concerns. Other strengths of the study included the large sample size, use of objective measures of land exposure, and an important sensitivity analysis in different land parameters or bedroom light data gathered during the actual sleep period defined by ectography. Our observations add new information to the current understanding of pressure. Okay, this seems like a good study. Okay, I think based on what I see. Okay. Hazard ratio compares incident rates between groups, but they're using a statistical technique to adjust for factors that might be associated with depressive symptoms, GADS scores. If you look at table 3, the model that takes into account all the associated variables, the confidence interval of the HR gets quite close to 1, no effect, but it's still significant. As the other chatter said, the main methodical problem here is that it's not randomly allocated. Okay, hold on. All right. Okay, that's okay. All right, this is good. We give this guy a thumbs up. Okay, sorry. We're back.
doubled my deep sleep by using the glasses I made for sleep.
To Ben Greenfield.
Hey, I'm Ben Greenfield. If you see me wearing blue light blocking glasses, 9 times out of 10, I'm wearing the raw. I'm Ben Greenfield.
I have doubled my deep sleep by using the glasses I made for sleep.
To Ben Greenfield. He was speaking science on Rogan and fighting back against poorly researched bro scientists and wellness grifters. From Dave Asprey.
I have doubled my deep sleep by using the glasses I made for sleep.
To Ben Greenfield.
Oh, it wasn't about this video. It was another one I looked up. Okay, sorry.
Hey, I'm Ben Greenfield. If you see me wearing blue light blocking glasses, 9 times out of 10, I'm wearing the raw optics version.
And whoever this is?
So everybody loves the red glasses. They want to know, why are you wearing the red glasses? And the red glasses are to block the blue light that is coming off of all these lights that I'm around.
He seemed different than every other wellness influencer out there because of his credentials.
And at night, it doesn't matter if you have blue blockers on. The people that made these products failed to actually read the papers start to finish, or if they did, they didn't comprehend a critical element.
But was he really unbiased? For every free hack that he doled out, it also seemed that there was a raft of supplemental products that people could opt into. His actual sponsors were a who's who of wellness bro staples, like Athletic Greens.
Learn more at athleticgreens.com.
A company that was literally founded by a convicted criminal who fled prosecution in New Zealand for unfair business dealings. Chris Ashenden's green powder skyrocketed to success not on the merits of its spirulina research, but because of its generous marketing plan that shared 30% of revenue with influencers.
Damn.
Just go to athleticgreens.com/Huberman.
I did a whole video on AG1 that you should definitely check out. AG1 hired the most powerful defamation lawyer in the country to kill this video before it ever aired. But as you can see, it didn't work. And Huberman, well, he drove a huge number of subscriptions to AG1, even as his fellow influencers were skeptical of the endorsement.
Calling, for example, Athletic Greens 1 or AG1 a high-quality greens powder is a little misleading.
This episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens. Yeah.
The guy!
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Huberman also sponsors Element, BetterHelp, Whoop, and Plunge, just to name a few. Still, if I were going to give Huberman a huge heaping benefit of the doubt and say that his endorsements for those companies were honest representations of his personal worldview, and that despite the cash that he was bringing in, the deals did not influence his scientific interpretations, his partnership with Roca is different.
Uh-oh.
While we can argue that he is not an expert on salts or spirit.
How much do these glasses cost? Wait, do they not sell them anymore? Roca is a violence intervention and behavioral health program for the young people most likely to shoot or be shot. Jesus. Oh, did I spell it wrong? Fuck. Roca. Oh, performance enhancer? Holy shit, they got them in different colors. Lens technology, lens color. What's the best? What's the best ones? Activity. Oh my God, there are different glasses for different activities? Running or triathlon, but not outdoor adventure? Is there... Do you do a triathlon indoors? Holy shit.
Spirulina or therapy. As a professor of neuroanatomy and ophthalmology, these glasses are at the very heart of who Huberman is as a scientific authority.
What the professor of what? I heard the ophthalmology part. What was the first one?
Ophthalmology on salts or spirulina or therapy. As a professor of neuroanatomy and ophthalmology.
Oh, neuroanatomy. Okay.
These glasses are at the very heart of who Huberman is as a scientific authority. So let's look at what Huberman is specifically claiming, particularly since he has substantially changed his opinions on blue blocking glasses since he first started talking about them.
Okay.
Here he is in 2021 talking to Samer Hodder,
Okay.
the section chief on circadian rhythms at the National Institutes of Health.
I personally, I've tried the blue blocker and I couldn't even wear them. I thought they were just really horrendous, to be honest.
Well, along the lines of blue blockers, I think a lot of people mistakenly wear them all day long.
Oh my God, that would be very
A lot of people do that. A lot of people do that. They think that blue light is bad. I think that the concept of blue...
If you wear the blue things all day long, you'll forget how to see the color blue, and then you lose it. That's how you go colorblind. Not good.
Light being a lot of people do that. They think that blue light is bad. I think that the concept of blue light being bad led to a lot of product development, and a lot of people are just assuming that viewing blue light is what was giving them headaches, when in fact it might have just been looking at screens at close distance all
So
day.
here's the problem, right?
Here he is again a year later in 2022 in his episode called Sleep Toolkit.
First of all, you're going to want to avoid bright artificial lights of any...
Okay, wait, maybe I haven't watched many videos of this guy. Did this guy like chat out in like 2022 or 2023? Because here he looks like a guy who's just like, he's like a big nerd. I'm not insulting, obviously I'm a nerd. He looks like a big nerd guy, but I feel like in my mind, he has like the fucking alpha Chad archetype. Did he like change, or was Was he like different in presentation earlier? I have no idea.
Toolkit.
First of all, you're going to want to avoid bright artificial lights of any color. Yes, of any color. We haven't talked a lot about blue blockers, lenses that block blue wavelengths or short wavelengths of light. You don't need them. And even if you do wear them, you will find that if lights are very bright, doesn't matter if it's a blue light, a yellow light, or a red light, those bright lights will wake up your brain and body. They will activate the same mechanisms that were activated early in the day by sunlight.
Okay.
And there are a lot of other clips where he generally says the same thing. Huberman was actively critical of companies selling useless blue blocking solutions and repeatedly said that blue blockers don't really do very much. He explicitly blamed normal ambient electric lighting for interfering with sleep. That was the cause, not screens. But you can't really make that much money from telling people to turn down the lights. Glasses, though?
Didn't you sell blue light cream 3 years ago? Yeah, I did. It was a beautiful blue light cream, and what it did was when you put it on your skin, it blocked the blue light from keeping you awake at night. So, fuck you. It was a great product. What was that? Wait, whatever happened with that company? Oh no. Oh no. You guys are haters. You guys are just hating. You're haters right now.
Let me see your screen time stats. What's yours? Oh, what's mine? 8 hours? There's no way. We all spend so much time in front of our screens. Think of your laptop, your phone, your tablet, even watches have screens these days. I get it. I'm a full-time...
Never mind.
phone, your tablet, even watches have screens these days. I get it. I'm a full-time content creator. My career depends on being glued to a screen, but all that screen time started to take a toll on my body and my skin. So I did...
What? Okay.
So I did something about it, because we all know screens aren't going anywhere. Meet Reflect. It's the skincare collection that's for everyone who uses a screen. It's designed to protect your skin against blue light, which is emitted from all digital screens. Yes.
I'm saying it. Is she black or is she Asian? I can't tell. I feel like I'm watching a race shifter. What's going on here?
Even the one you're using right now.
I'm not talking about this girl. Don't clip it like I'm talking about this girl. Stop.
Probably heard about blue light and the effect it has on your eyesight. But over time, blue light can actually affect your skin as well. I worked with experts to figure out the best and safest ingredients for blue light protection.
We've got some seawater, glycolic and lactic acids, shea butter, caffeine, prickly pear extract, RE3 sodium hyaluronate,
like BLPF, or blue light prevention factor. What the heck is BLPF? It's like SPF, but for the screen. And RE3, a special blend of rice extracts that work together to protect the skin against blue light pollution. No matter what product
Oh god, did you sell it? No, you fucking retard. I never sold this. Fuck you. Why would I do a sponsor for a skin cream?
you're using from the Reflect lineup, you're going to get the ultimate blue light protection. Guys, the Aura Reset Facial Gel Cleanser is the best. It completely resets my skin to clean and clear. I won't go near a screen without it. Then I power up my skin's defense stats with the Screen Shield Defense Face Moisturizer. It's not greasy, and it really works to hydrate and brighten my skin. I use it with my cleanser every day for a little extra protection. Late night streaming sessions make my eyes look tired and dull. The Eye Revive Gel Treatment is such a lifeline, it brings my eyes back to life. The Resurrection Eye Mask is literally a lifesaver when I need to look awake fast. Blue light affects lips too.
How does this look awake? If I saw you with these on, I would just assume you're sleepy. It's self-defeating.
When I need to look awake
What, are they stupid?
fast. Blue light affects lips too. Thankfully, our lip guard protects against blue light and gives me an instant boost of hydration. Spending time in front of the screen is part of our world, but the negative
She must have made so much money from this. The sad part is, I think this product launch got killed like the day up because the reception was so bad.
effects don't have to be. What I wanted to create with Reflect was a collection that could help people protect themselves against blue light pollution. Because when you feel your best, you can reflect your best.
no. I'm sorry. Valkyrie's Reflect shuts down less than 2 weeks after launch. After Hofstadter was attacked on social media over the blue light claims associated with Reflect, and a conversation leaked suggesting Ray was attempting to exit her contract with the brand. Oh no. Ludwig. I mean, shit, you saw the studies. No one can tell you otherwise. People can argue, like, don't trust their studies. It's obviously biased, but you can only BS so much. I feel like they're playing a long game and don't want to show any studies. But, oh, this is when they claimed they had done, like, private research studies. like there's not, like, an entire industry that's, like, motivated to find people having damage from light from screens or whatever. Like, this company, like, did a super ultra private, deep state, dark, top secret Manhattan project here. Ulta invested $4 million, so it's like, why wouldn't they make it legit? Why would a company like Ulta invest in something like this if they didn't also believe the research? They just don't understand how this ruins my brand if the research isn't public. I really needed to be public. LOL, I'm so dumb. I should have asked more questions. I just thought it was obvious it would be there. I'm just going to embrace the scammer life, get out of the contract, and admit I was an idiot. LeMayo woo. Honestly, I mean, damn. I mean, I guess I'm a little sympathetic, I guess. If she's, how old is she? In 2021? This doesn't matter that much, I guess. 28. I mean, like, a company comes to you that's a mainstream producer of some, Ulta, I'm guessing, is like a big makeup brand, and they say they've invested $4 million in a product, and they're like, oh yeah, we've done it. Like, I could see somebody kind of being like, I get it. One of the largest brands, yeah, okay, Just gonna get out of the contact right now. Yeah, I mean, like, this isn't even that bad. Who leaked this convo between Ludwig and Valkyrie? They hate me for leaving the contract, but it's looking like it's possible, so I'm hopeful. Apparently, I didn't sign one of the contracts, so I have a bit of leverage. Damn. Yeah, whatever. I get it. I think this is whatever. Wasn't it A-Track? How did he even have access to these combos? All right, sorry.
Well, that's something else entirely.
Roca and I designed these glasses.
Which is to say, not only has he changed his mind on blue blockers, but he has devised a way to sell his own branded version. Roca's website advertises wind-down glasses, along with some very specific claims of their benefits. They write that their glasses will, quote, lower stress levels, sync the circadian rhythm, and help protect your mood. Further stating that even minimal artificial light exposure can interfere with your natural rhythm and suppress melatonin production. What do you say to that claim?
Short story is bullshit. Well, partly bullshit.
Right after I learned about Huberman's partnership with Roca, sleep scientists and wellness debunkers started pointing to a recent review article that directly studied how light from our screens can affect our sleep. So I reached out to the lead author.
My name's Mike.
Please studied how light from our
A bidirectional model of sleep and technology use, a theoretical review of how much, for whom, and which mechanisms. A bidirectional model of sleep. Johnny Harris took down the video and made a short response of what he got wrong. Oh no.
Hey everyone, I am taking down the video that I published earlier this week on NATO and Russia. I want to redo it. I got some things wrong and I want to do it right. I am so grateful for the wave of feedback that I got from this. The comment section can be a brutal place sometimes, and this was hard for me at first, but ultimately I love this. I love that I can put something out there and that I can hear from you, a group of people who come back with good faith debunks, critiques, and feedback for me to make me better at what I do, to wake me up to blind spots I might have in my perspective. I deeply appreciate that. And I believe that that is the core of good journalism, being earnest about seeking truth and knowing when you need to shift your perspective. So in this video, I'm just going to quickly get you up to speed on what I've learned, what I think I got wrong here, and also try to explain the intent behind publishing this video in the first place, because I kind of want your help on how to think about how to do a format like this. So first, what I got wrong here. It was clear to me from a lot of these comments, mostly from Eastern Europeans, that I omitted the valuable perspective from these Eastern European countries that were a huge part of this story. This piece should have more thoroughly included those perspectives. I focused a lot on the geopolitics of the United States and Russia in the 90s when NATO was expanding. And in doing so, I think I left out a very valuable perspective. I see that very clearly now. I also didn't show a sensitivity to what it means to live next to modern Russia, an expansionist, hostile state that is currently fighting a war of choice with its neighbor. Not to mention the generational trauma that comes with the decades of atrocities under Soviet rule. I have no good excuse for leaving this stuff out other than a simple lack of sensitivity and understanding around those specific topics. That's something I genuinely want to change, and I am genuinely sorry for treating such sensitive topics without the care that I think they deserve. This feedback was also heard by our sponsor. They have their own experience with Russia and NATO, and they didn't want to be associated with this. Now, I should be clear, sponsors have no editorial influence on what we cover or how we cover it, but them responding to your pushback is just another way that you're...
Here it comes. Wait, fuck, hold on. I wasn't listening.
Around those specific topics. That's something like modern Russia, an expansionist, hostile state that is currently fighting a war of choice with its neighbor. Not to mention the generational trauma that comes with the decades of atrocities under Soviet rule. I have no good excuse for leaving this stuff out other than a simple lack of sensitivity and understanding around those specific topics. That's something I genuinely want to change, and I am genuinely sorry for treating such sensitive topics without the care that I think they deserve. This feedback was also heard by our sponsor. They have their own experience with Russia and NATO, and they didn't want to be associated with this. Now, I should be clear, sponsors have no editorial influence on what we cover, how we cover it, but them responding to your pushback is just another way that your voice is heard in all of this. So now let me explain why I made a video like this in the first place.
Well, who was the sponsor again for the video?
I imagine this as the first of two videos in a debate series where I take one piece of history and I treat it through two totally different perspectives. The first being NATO expansion as a missed opportunity for peace in the 90s, and the second being NATO expansion as the key for peace in the 90s for Eastern European states and for the world. This is a debate that academics and international relations scholars have, and when I was in grad school studying peace and conflict resolution, I had these kinds of debates, and I found
it was the weird redacting, right? Yeah, okay.
Very valuable for learning. Even when I was engaging with stuff I didn't agree with, I found it useful. This is a type of conversation that we don't really have in news media today. It threatens to push us further into our ideological bunkers till eventually we can't even see the humanity of the people we disagree with. I want this channel and New Press as a whole to be a place where we can have these kinds of debates, where we can talk about these kinds of narratives, and to do so independent of any corporate or ideological influence. So in addition to leaving out some of these valuable perspectives of Eastern European countries, I think I also did a poor job of communicating my intent and setting up this kind of debate format more clearly. So I still want to publish this video, but I just want to do it right. So my response to this is more, please. Like, even though this is uncomfortable for me, ultimately, this is what I love about doing journalism on YouTube, where I get to directly publish to you, and then you get to give feedback to me, which makes my journalism better. So thank you to all of those who took time to give me feedback on this video and to point out where I missed the mark. Leave comments here in the description about how you think I should approach this debate format and what else you want to see. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.
Jesus. Damn, you got sponsor cucked because people don't like the last video? Jesus. Okay. My God. The flow state. Okay, sorry. I was just like going through real quick for this. Okay. All right. Sorry. Okay. It seems like, so I don't know what he's about to say about this paper or what Andrew Huberman said about this paper, but it sounds like the paper is suggesting a bidirectional link between sleep and technology, claiming that the idea that screens keep us awake in like a physiological sense is not true, and that's not supported by the research. However, our desire to use screens to forego sleep is true. And so there's like like technology influences our sleep, and then sleep influences our technology through ways like this, like bidirectional thing instead of a unidirectional thing. Sounds like what they're kind of develop, or they want to update their unidirectional model to account for the ways that our sleep changes based on our engagement with technology. Okay, all right. Okay, so I don't know. We'll see.
And wellness debunkers started pointing to a recent review article that directly studied how light from our screens can affect our sleep. So I reached out to the lead author.
My name's Michael Gradisar. I'm a clinical psychologist, and my specialty has just been in sleep circadian rhythm disorders.
Gradisar's 2024 paper, called A Bidirectional Model of Sleep and Technology Use in the journal Sleep Medicine Reviews, examined all of the available research on how technology affects sleep and came to a surprising conclusion. The blue light from our screens isn't generally bright enough to affect our circadian rhythms at all.
Before we started collecting data, we had to take some measurements of the amount of lux coming from that screen of the iPad. And I was taking those measurements. I was in one of the sleep lab bedrooms. All the lights were
at all.
Oh man, how pedantic do I want to see? How pedantic do I want to be here? Wait. It's this part. I think that, unless I'm retarded, this is just like this is a literature review. I believe, wait. I don't think there's any original research in this. I think that they are going over they're going over the current literature, and then they're updating a theoretical framework or model that they have to analyze, like very light model, not like a super math heavy thing or whatever. We're not like doing econ or whatever, but it's like a lit review basically. So I don't know if I would say that they did research and they found this, or they did a study and they found this, because these are technically other studies done. I'm being hyper pedantic here. It probably doesn't even matter. Don't worry about it.
Examined all of the available research on how technology affects sleep and came to a surprising conclusion. The blue light from our screens isn't generally bright enough to affect our circadian rhythms at all.
Before we started collecting data, we had to take some measurements of the amount of lux coming from that screen of the iPad. And I was taking those measurements. I was in one of the sleep lab bedrooms. All the lights were off.
He could be doing, this could be a literature review citing his study though. I didn't get the name of this guy actually. So this lit review might be referencing his study actually, because he's talking like he was one of the researchers on the study. So that makes more sense. Okay.
I had the lux meter, and I had the screen, and I had a...
Lit reviews are often considered higher tiers of evidence than studies though. I don't know if I'd say a lit review, I feel uncomfortable saying higher tier evidence. A literature review is supposed to just be somebody who's qualified, kind of like summarizing and bringing together a whole bunch of different studies to kind of talk about like, okay, well, here's like where the state of the research is. Here's kind of like the things that seem to be pretty true based on where we got. These are things that haven't panned out based on where we're at. And here's here are some conclusions we can draw. Further investigation should be done here or whatever, basically. It's like a literature review. You're going over like what's the state of the research right now, basically.
I had a fully upright white content.
The last name on the list of authors is this guy. Okay, Michael Gradisar. Damn, imagine being an et al. Cuck. Like they cuck you and they put you in I want my name there. And you're like, fuck you. You're the et al. Guy. Fuck.
In the background. And I was only getting about 50 lux, which was so low. Like when we try to change someone's circadian rhythms therapeutically, we're trying to use like 500 or 1,000 lux from an artificial source. So I actually had to sort of bend my knees as I'm sitting upright on this bed and have the iPad closer to my face, because obviously the closer you bring it to your face, the higher the lux. And we could only get it to about...
Lux is a measurement, I think, of the intensity of the light per square inch or whatever the volumetric thing is. But obviously, the further something away is from you, because of the inverse square law, because the same point of intensity has to spread out in 2 dimensions, causes the intensity to drop. So lux, the distance, I think, is important when it comes to measuring the lux of a given thing.
About 80 lux.
In other words, even if you're in bed with the screen right up against your nose, that light is 5...
Didn't the other study say that 5 lux is enough to change circadian rhythm? No, it was enough to disrupt sleep, or not even really to disrupt sleep. It was enough to make it so that a person had a higher incidence reporting of depressive symptoms following a year of having sleep, where over 5 lux was present during sleep. It doesn't say anything about circadian rhythm.
5 to 10 times
lux.
In other words, even if you're in bed with the screen right up against your nose, that light is 5 to 10 times dimmer than what you can prove scientifically would...
What's the difference between lux and lumen? I think lumen is the measurement of the intensity at the source, and lux is maybe the measurement of the intensity where it hits, the perceived, maybe? Let me check. Okay, I don't know why I did that. I'm sorry. Okay, reject all. What are we at? Convex lumen closely liberated. While lumens measure the amount of light emitted by a source, luxes determine the same amount of light, but are projected on a source. Fuck, I'm just a fucking encyclopedia. That's what I am, bro. Got any other questions for me, buddy? Because I'll answer them, because I know everything, all right?
Affect your sleep.
Lo and behold, you know, when we compared a bright...
In what words, even if you're in bed with the screen right up against your nose, that light is 5 to 10 times dimmer than what you can prove scientifically would affect your sleep.
Well, very careful. I am going to be nitpicky here because he's critiquing somebody else and being nitpicky. Affects your sleep is different than affects your circadian rhythm. Those are two different things, right? Because the iPad does seem to affect your sleep, just not like in a circadian rhythm, blue light bullshit kind of way, but in a users are using technology kind of way. That's what this lit review at least was saying. I skimmed this, so I might be... So despite the popular belief that the arousing neurological, like, oh, like it's waking your brain or whatever, stimulation resulting from using technology before bed sleep leads to problems, the research conducted up till now shows some consistency that do not support such a belief. We posit that the first challenge for individuals is to rethink their position on the influences from bright screens and the content on them. In contrast, we cannot ignore that the most understudied mechanisms, those of nighttime sleep disruption and sleep displacement, support the first few sentences in this paper, that technology use and sleep are meaningfully connected. Not only are they connected, but it appears that allowing oneself to use technology beyond their own bedtime and or having their sleep interrupted by their phones may each reduce the sleep opportunity by an hour or more. So using an iPad before bed will fuck with your sleep, but not because of like some crazy blue light mechanism or circadian rhythm disruption, but because of other behavioral mechanisms that influence how much sleep you get because you're scrolling your phone, you're doing stuff. Okay, I'm being a little bit pedantic, but it's not strictly correct when he's saying like, well, actually the iPad has no impact on your sleep stuff, just circadian rhythm, yes.
We could only get it to about 80 lux.
In other words, even if you're in bed with the screen right up against your nose, that light is 5 to 10 times dimmer than what you can prove scientifically would affect your sleep.
Lo and behold, you know, when we compared a bright screen to a dim screen, it only took 3.5 minutes longer on average to fall asleep if you had a bright screen compared to a dim screen. It was really nothing.
It wasn't just Gradizar's own research saying that. Almost every other study that directly looked at the effects of screens on human sleep said basically the same thing.
If you look overall at the 11 studies that tested this effect of how much longer does it take to fall asleep if you're exposed to a bright screen, it's only like a few minutes. So why would you spend $100 trying to get a few minute benefit? It just doesn't make sense to me. It seems very strange that someone who professes that he's providing things at zero cost is doing something like this because...
Doesn't going past your normal sleep schedule and pushing it forward necessarily alter your circadian rhythm? I don't believe so. I think circadian rhythm is just supposed to be the hormonal changes in your body and how your body responds to sunlight, I think. No?
You don't need glasses like this. You've got something inbuilt on your phones. If you've got control of your lighting environment, just dim your lights down or turn them off.
At the bottom of the page on Roka's website, Huberman links to a handful of studies that are meant to support his health claims. But as is the case with references in most of his podcasts, they don't really hold up to scrutiny. I went over
Did that report imply that technology use, like a non-light emitting Kindle, would cause the similar sleep effects as an iPad? A Kindle or something like that probably wouldn't, maybe, I don't know. But it seemed like, because one of the mechanisms they talked about here was FOMO. Like, I don't know if books would have the same issue. This was just one. I didn't have time to read this one. I'm just skimming this. Okay. With the rapid access to social media use in the past decade, young people may have become particularly vulnerable to socio-emotional pressures around the clock. Some insights come from a large-scale study of over 3,000 adolescents who reported high scores on a FOMO scale. They also reported delayed sleep onset, short sleep duration, and poor sleep quality. Young people also said concerns about the negative consequences if they are disconnected from peers, including peer exclusion from missing out and social disapproval. So you wouldn't have to worry about like endlessly scrolling in a book or fear of missing out on like some news update in a book or whatever. Yeah. What? Okay.
Than with Gradazar, and the research generally didn't control for luminosity, which is the key factor, and the tests that did, well, they were done on mice, not humans.
So you don't get much benefit, you don't get much return on investment by using these glasses. So I don't know why we've got now a mouse study when we've got human studies on the very topic that these things are supposed to be about.
For a layperson, maybe this mistake wouldn't be so objectionable. We've all heard how blue light from our screens can mess with our sleep. But it is worth emphasizing that Huberman is a Stanford professor with a specific expertise in neuroanatomy and ophthalmology. This is literally what he is known for. He, of all people, knows the science on this. He simply has no excuse for this error. His Roca partnership is a pure and unadulterated grift from beginning to end.
Damn.
And this is really what I want to talk to you about for the remainder of this video. In general, I don't particularly care about any single specific product or business plan that people get up to in order to monetize their podcasts. What I care about is the much larger problem about trusting things that we learn online. I care about how the business of influence has changed the way that people learn about science and health information, and how that in turn affects the way that the general public trusts information in general at large. But before I dig into that, and because it just feels wildly appropriate right now, I want to take a moment for a word from our sponsors, which is you. I spend a lot of time thinking about how I can monetize this channel, and I'm extremely cautious about who I'm willing to take money from. I can see the slippery slope of how sponsorships change the message, and that's why crowdfunding is so important to the future of online journalism. I've gone toe-to-toe with some of the biggest scammers on the internet. They've threatened me with lawsuits, which makes putting these videos together not only technically difficult, but expensive to produce. From a pure business perspective, what I do is madness. If you like the journalism that I do and want to help me keep holding truth to power, I would love you to subscribe to my Substack newsletter so we can keep in touch, and consider upgrading to a premium membership where you can get early access to my videos before anyone else sees them.
Damn.
You'll also be part of an amazing community who supports the future of journalism in a world where the future of journalism is in question. And remember, hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll go back to the video right now. The problem with celebrity scientists, it's not exactly new.
Now, again, we always had celebrity doctors, right? We had all of these famous doctors working for Marlboro.
Not the most trustworthy of sources, but okay.
Back in the day, remember marketing cigarettes?
In a nationwide survey, doctors in all branches of medicine were asked, what cigarette do you smoke?
Saying like, this is the doctor's #1 favorite. I'm a doctor, and I smoke Marlboro Lights every day. So it's not new. It's just with the internet, you see this sort of marketing scaling to a level that we haven't seen before, and people developing these very sort of parasocial bonds with the science and medical influencers that they're following.
I reached out to Taylor Lorenz, a former Washington Post reporter and author of the book Extremely Online, to ask her about how much she thinks that sponsorship deals alter the way the public understands science.
One thing that I think is really dangerous is you see a lot of these like science and medical influencers engaging with increasingly extreme sort of sections of the internet. Like, it's not so much of a problem, right, if like Huberman is endorsing a product, but say he goes on someone like Joe Rogan to endorse the product, or starts partnering with, other disinformation podcasters and influencers.
On this point, I did a video a few months back about what I call the yes and effect. It's about how top members of this griftoverse support each other's increasingly extreme statements in order to expand their own reach. Joe Rogan currently sits at the top of that ecosystem, which is who, incidentally, Andrew Huberman appeared on to break into the mainstream. Those influencers also end up working with the same brands like AG1 and grab similar affiliate marketing deals. It is a whole ecosystem of grift. And unlike the sort of journalism that I do, well, there's real money in it. I asked Taylor what she thought Huberman was making on his Roca deal.
It's so hard to know how much somebody is making. I don't know that he's getting millions, but I could imagine that he stands to make millions, especially if he's getting a significant portion of sales, just because I imagine he's able to drive a huge amount of sales through pushing this product as part of his sort of expertise and brand. So I think this just goes back to like why we need more transparency in this industry generally. It's we just don't know kind of what someone stands to gain. And so that's why it makes it very hard to trust this type of stuff.
The complete lack of transparency in financial terms for influencers is incredibly frustrating. It's one thing to know that a company sponsors a particular product, but there is a big difference between bringing in a few $100s and a few $1 million for a spot. The academic literature isn't much help clearing things up. The best I found was a 2023 article by two professors of communication at Stanford, Angelique Kristen and Yingdang Liu. They examined 1,082 posts on Instagram by influencers talking about their business models. At the top end, these researchers discovered that influencers with around 1 million followers were making $100,000 for a single post along with a few related stories. Now with his 6 million followers,
Okay, this was the highest rate in the sample. So this is probably an outlier. 100,000, 100K for 3 posts and 9 stories. Reported by a mega influencer with more than 1 million followers. Okay, this is the highest one. Okay.
Followers were making $100,000 for a single post along with a few related stories. Now with his 6 million followers on YouTube and 7 million on Instagram, Huberman stands to make considerably more than that. As an aside, it's also relevant to remember that Huberman also makes money with generic YouTube ads. A good ballpark estimate for his niche, which I'm basing off data of my own Huberman related videos on my channel, is that he's making roughly $5.50 for every 1,000 views on his videos, or about $5,500 per million views. With 361 million views on his channel, this means that since he began uploading 3 years ago, he has brought in about $20 million through AdSense alone. So think about that when Huberman begins his sponsor segments by $1 million in views on his channel. This means that since he began uploading 3 years ago, he has brought in about $20 million.
Wait, how many views do I have on my channel? Wait, does this mean I've made 40? Okay, that I don't know where he's getting those numbers from. He's using estimates online that are not always accurate. So I've made over $40 million on my videos are way longer than most people's. But Jesus, okay.
Through AdSense alone. So think about that when Huberman begins his sponsor segments by repeating some iteration of this.
It is, however, part of my desire and effort to bring zero cost to consumer information about science and science-related tools to the general public.
By his definition, everything on YouTube is zero cost, right? And you would think that he would be able to survive on that cool $7 million a year in just YouTube ads.
Wasn't he including the sponsor stuff? Oh, maybe if you include all sponsors and everything, maybe. That's still really high. I'm not sure why the public feels they should know how much an influencer is making. I mean, we don't ask this for our shows that have commercial breaks, right? I think a commercial break is a little bit different than a direct sponsor, because usually the shows aren't commenting on the commercials. I think it's a bit different when you're commenting on the product itself. I feel like I'd want to know that. Like, oh shit, this guy is heavily endorsing this camera or this monitor. Okay, that's cool. But then, oh, also, this company's paying them $2 million. I feel like that's good to know. No?
Ads without bringing on sponsors, especially considering that Glassdoor reports that the average Stanford professor earns between $139,000 and $251,000 per year. Why isn't Huberman content with 28 times the normal salary for his position as an associate professor? Maybe it's just me, but I never really have been able to wrap my mind around what motivates people to amass endless wealth. I make around $5,000 a month on YouTube ads and through my Substack and Patreon. Overall, I'm pretty okay with where I am. My goal has never been to get rich, but instead just wealthy enough to have the freedom to do what I love, which, as you can see, is what I'm doing. But I guess in order to keep his valuable science free for the average listener, Huberman needs to wet his beak with a little more than what he pulls in through AdSense. Enter his specially curated list of 17 sponsors that he's featuring on his channel right now. Now, I reached out to the team at Roka to inquire about how much the sponsorship deal was worth with Huberman, but they never got back to me.
It's the difference between commercials and product placement, like seeing Sony products everywhere in Spider-Man movies. I disagree. Even product placement is different. The types of endorsements you're getting from these types of influencers is a lot different, right? I don't know how to explain this exactly, but I think that you are, when you're getting into more of an area of expertise, I think that there is a higher burden on, like, the endorsement is going to be worth. How we gupping today? Are we gupping or are we gupping? How did taps go? Honestly, I was pretty disappointed. So I decided to bring Sam Hyde. It's like a meme, and they didn't even let me in the building. No, I'm just kidding. I thought it went actually pretty fun. I thought it was a pretty funny show. Did he troll you? No, I think it was just like an ordinary. It was just a normal show. I think you guys got way too mindful. Was Nick on? No, he just sits in the audience. I will say it was kind of funny that one of the guys there was apparently a big fan of me, and apparently Nick has been like doing a lot to like set the studio up and everything. It's like, yeah, all that camera and audio that you're doing on your stream. Yeah, we've been doing that too. I was like, nice. Also, I will say those T9 drives was the answer. Thank God. I recorded for like 9 hours on those bad boys. Easy. They format, no overheating. Oh, perfecto. Did you get the show with 2 chairs? Yeah, I got the 2 chairs show. Tyler, why do you keep spamming the same shit? What do you want? Folks on Dev Hour mentioned that they got into Obsidian because of you. They said they'd be open having it. What is Dev Hour? Dev Hour, YouTube. Are you sick? No, I just woke up like 23 minutes ago. So I decided to put on my little gut voice, my Hasanabi real life. Hey guys, what's up? I like to do political activism Good one. Someone on Pod Save America and CNN. I haven't watched either one yet. Oh my God. You've got 3 minutes. Go.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so you... Fuck. Let me make this straight. Okay, so how did it go? You recorded for that long? No frame drops and nothing?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. I will admit, I'm very surprised that worked, but good for you. Good for you. I'll take the L. I'll take the L because I'm a man, and I'll take it.
Okay.
Where do we go from here? So you're gonna use the 6K.
Everything else works fine. I don't know what else. There's nowhere else to go from here. I don't know what.
Okay.
Nothing else was wrong. It was just finding a drive. I don't know where else. But that's okay. You got 2 minutes and 15 seconds left.
Wait, why am I under a time limit?
Because I don't know why. Because we have nothing to talk about. I don't know. I don't want to spend 12 hours.
I just want to know how it went. I just wanted to know how it went. I was willing to admit when I was wrong. I'm still very surprised that shit worked.
Okay.
But I guess I just wanted to publicly say you were right. Congrats. I'm glad you got it all worked out. Would still love to work on that studio sometime. And sorry for yelling.
Wow.
That's all I got.
Okay. I love you. Be careful.
Love you too.
Wow. Darius messaged me and asked, "Is this worth?" I don't know what any computer stuff is worth these days. Wait, a 4070 Super and a 1400F for $1,300? Is this? This seems like a really good deal, no? Well, all right. What are we watching first today? How long is this? 2 hours. Oh, I don't know if I could do it. I tried to watch Bro, I'm getting blackballed by Lonerbox H3 comments. All you gotta do is be attractive and you win. It's more than that. There's it's the dynamic that I pointed out before. I mean, I can point it out as much as I want, but I don't know what the point is of, or what it even does. The issue is that if you're not politically aligned with any communities, then you have no large community that just by default has your back. And since we're not politically aligned with any communities, if you're anywhere in my orbit, basically it's free reign to just go off hard on you. And that's basically what Lonerbox is now experiencing, because Lonerbox is no longer with the left 100% on the crazy far leftist shit. So now he's fucked. Yeah, I mean, it's annoying. The goal is the goal is always attack the outgroup basically.
That represents the Shi'i community of Lebanon. It started out.
Watch Lonerbox? I'm okay. But for anyone who thinks I'm a self-hating Arab or anything like that, y'all can watch him. And then come back to me, and then tell me how much you hate me.
Out as a social service organization, actually an ambulance corps.
You called Lonerbox a genocide supporter? Yeah, I mean, that's basically how it goes. Yeah, you're either with them 100% or you're against 100%. Yeah. Yeah, I tried watching some of that Janksgiving, and it was. I think I turned on Justical Stream 3 times. And every single time I turned it on, Hassan was saying the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And it was it was agonizing to listen to. Holy shit.
Hassan's on a new, he's just on a big level. Here's the other thing with Hassan. He's unreasonably good looking and cool and dresses cool.
Tell me about it.
But do you know what I mean? Hassan would be an influencer no matter what he was saying, because he is
Hot.
Very attractive and very cool and genuinely a good person too. I will say, like, Hasan is actually a cool, fun, good person.
Jesus. So cool, so fun, such a good person, yeah. Is there not validity to this? No. Hasan wouldn't make it in any kind of like not the most popular kind of like media sphere apparatus thing or whatever, because he can't handle the haters or whatever. You can already see where like it bothers him a lot when he doesn't have like 100% of the narrative on his side or whatever. I mean, obviously like being attractive and everything helps for sure, but like on a personal psychological level, I don't think he'd be able to handle not being in the majority opinion on something. You notice how much you hate watching you lately, way more than usual. Yeah, I don't know if it's because I was picking up more viewers or because there's nothing else to talk about, or I have no idea, I don't know.
Welcome to Pod Save America. I'm John Lovett, and guest hosting with me today is the massively popular streamer Leftist Dumbass himself. You just self-described.
That's okay, sure, fair. I say himbo, but damn.
Okay. Hasan Piker, welcome back.
It's good to be back. Thank you for having me.
After my conversation with Hasan, you'll hear my conversation with Seth Moulton. We talked about the Democratic Party. We talked about the controversy over his comments around trans athletes. Also on the feed right now, you can hear Dan's conversation with Jen O'Malley Dillon, Quentin Fulks, David Plouffe, and Stephanie Cutter about what went wrong in the Harris campaign. We're having a bunch of conversations about what we learned from the election, where we go from here, with a bunch of different voices, one of which is here today. People are mad that we talked to the Harris campaign. People are mad we're talking to you. People are mad, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But let's start with this.
It's a big tent.
It's a big tent. It's a big tent.
It's got Dick Cheney in it.
It's got Dick Cheney in it. It's got Hasan Piker in it.
Yeah.
It's got Dan Osborne in it. It's got Seth Moulton in it.
Yes. He's not in the tent. I don't know why you would say that, but God, fuck. It's so, this is how, I'm trying to think of the comparison. Like when adults try to like talk about video games, or when like mainstream media tries to like 4channel is a place where B-tard posters post anon, crazy, wacky. It's like people have no concept of the space, like try to talk about it, and it's like, oh my God, it's so fucking cringe. Like, Lil Bro's not in the tent. He's not a Democrat. He's not even a liberal. He's a fucking leftist. Like, oh God.
Cheney in it. It's got Hasan Piker in it.
Yeah.
It's got Dan Osborne in it. It's got Seth Moulton in it.
Yeah. You know, tent shouldn't maybe feature Dick Cheney in it, but everybody else I can have a conversation with.
Great. All right. Now look, the main pastime on the left, other than being mad for the last few weeks, is everyone saying how right they were all along about Democrats being out of touch and bound to lose.
Arrest me. Sorry. So I sat at this chair. Well, maybe not at this chair, but I had the offline interview with John. I think a month before the election, and a lot of the concerns that I brought up to him, it seemingly came across as somewhat prescient, where people went back to the footage, and I've been seeing comments that were rather positive about, like, okay, he said a lot of stuff there that was objectively correct, seeming.
Yeah, I want to talk about one aspect of that.
Is that somebody? I saw somebody post on the subreddit that it's not even true that he said that he thought Kamala was going to win. I don't even know if I don't have the link to it, but
which is that you were saying, others were saying that, hey, like Trump going on Rogan, Trump going on Theo Von, like something is happening here, and we need to understand it. We need to address it. It's real. And I remember, like, my experience.
I still, however, maintain the position until this day, and I still maintain this position that Kamala Harris will most likely win the election come tomorrow. And this is not just me looking at the polls, even though, of course, I have looked at the polls this entire time, but also looking at the vibes. I don't just do poll analysis. I do polls plus vibes.
Like, it's so... Dude, I can't live in this world. It's boring. The problem is that it's boring to me. Like, all the fact gathering and all the research and the reading, everything, like, none of it matters because you just go on and, like, I can't say anything because I'm trying to talk to these people. I don't even want to. It's just so lazy. Like, what value do you bring to the world? You're not even willing to do, like, the most basic level of research. I don't know, man. Drive through. Anyway, so now we get to listen to how much of like a fortune teller Hasan is, despite the fact that he was just as wrong as anybody else. Where is this a clip or is this isn't that like a watchful? Oh, it says this.
Why do I do this? Well, the reason why I do polls plus vibes is because polls alone are not going to be enough. Okay. I have, however, learned something that's a little bit scary today, this morning. I've told you guys already, I have like a bunch of people that I talk to, normies in general. I have some high propensity voters, mid propensity voters, and low propensity voters in a place like California. And I look to who they vote for and how they vote. as well, because I just want to kind of see like a focus group basically. And my low propensity voter did vote for Donald Trump, which was shocking. And I don't know if it's because I basically kept asking him over and over again if he was going to go out and vote or not. But my low propensity conspiracy theory guy who loves RFK did actually end up voting. And that kind of shocked me a little bit. That kind of worried me a little bit, because this is fucking California. It doesn't mean California's going to flip, obviously. Chat, this does not mean California's going to flip red. That's fucking idiotic. I'm not making that argument at all. But what it means is, even in a place where someone who is not likely to go out and vote at all, where his vote is not even going to fucking matter at all, he found time out of his day to go out and vote, even though he has never gone out and voted before. That to me is a little troublesome. I haven't really seen this anywhere else in the data, but that still scares me regardless. Okay? So, having said that, however, I think that the fundamentals are on Kamala Harris's side still. Okay? I think that I have no faith that low propensity voters won't vote for Trump. Is bizarre, but he is rallying the RFK supporters. Well, now that I've talked about the Kamala Harris side of things and what I consider to be like not great campaigning, for example, I think that she focused far too much on trying to win over the white suburban mothers, and you can win them over. No one is saying don't try to win them over, but the way to win them over is supposed to be a delicate balance where you're not hemorrhaging your base of support, because you cannot let the urban pop fall apart. Okay, you cannot let the urban population, black voters, brown voters, young voters in general, voters in college, students and the like, not come out and vote for you because they are just like too bored and too grossed out by, or too depressed to go out and vote, because they just constantly hear you hugging and kissing the likes of Liz Cheney, or saying you're going to have a Republican in your cabinet. It's not good. Okay, it is not good. She needs white women. I understand that. I'm not against that, but there's a way to do that. While
just one thing that's very hard for people to understand is just how disconnected, how disconnected the ordinary American population is from our political sphere. And when I say I think that sometimes you guys think that disconnected means that, they don't know about the exact specifics of some Supreme Court case, or of January 6th, or of the Afghanistan pullout being in, how that was negotiated. When I say disconnect, I mean probably 50+% of the American population doesn't know the difference between Iraq and Afghanistan, or 20% of Americans would probably think that Turkey is in Africa, or 30 to 50% of Americans probably didn't even know that January 6th was associated with an election thing. They thought it was just a protest turned riot in Washington, D.C. maybe, or it's that level of disconnect. The idea that Cheney had some huge depression on voting for Kamala or whatever, 50+% of Americans probably wouldn't even be able to tell you what Dick Cheney's role in government was. There's zero chance that there's that in Hassan's world, there's these Hispanics out there oh, essay, you hear about Cheney? Yeah, man, I hate that dude. Not voting for Kamala now. Absolutely, hombre, bro. Yeah, it's such a cringe. It's I'm a leftist, and these are the things that I care about, and I'm going to tell you why poor black voters didn't vote, and it's because they don't like the war machine and the military-industrial complex that was headed by people like Dick Cheney. Little bro, nobody in these populations, nobody's in these cohorts are thinking about this or talking about this or even know anything about this. It's it's so stupid.
While simultaneously still communicating objectively popular policies to.
But anyway, let's hear about how Hassan got it perfectly right.
Happening here, and we need to understand it. We need to address it. It's real. And I remember my experience. It's seared in my mind of Trump being on Joe Rogan because of how my path of understanding it. Because what I saw first were a bunch of people taking clips and saying, "Wow, Rogan really didn't like Trump. Trump is a mess on this show. He comes across terribly. Rogan was giving Trump space to hang himself rhetorically." And then I watch it and Trump did fucking great in this interview.
Yeah, he's very telegenic. That's the thing that a lot of.
It's the thing that bothers me too is that Trump. First of all, Trump did not do great at that interview. If you like Trump, you'll leave that interview liking Trump. If you don't like Trump, for all the reasons you don't like Trump, you'll leave that interview not liking Trump. Unless I missed something, because I had to turn it off. I only made it halfway through. Maybe in the last hour, maybe he does significantly better. which is possible, I admit. I'll tell you, I didn't watch the entire thing. I'm not gonna lie. I could only do halfway through because it was so cringe. He couldn't answer a single fucking question about anything. It was the cringiest thing I've ever seen in my life. So maybe in the last hour, maybe he does significantly better. So I'll hedge that, I guess, if you've watched it yourself. But yeah, it's just so funny because like I'm curious if I see these Pod Save America guys talking about like Biden's debate performance, are they gonna be like, oh God, it was a train wreck, it was a disaster, and then you watch like Trump, drunkenly stumble his way through the 50th Glazer podcast. Wow, Trump's actually he's actually pretty telegenic here. He actually did like a pretty decent job here. Like, did he actually, or okay?
Rhetorically, and then I watch it, I'm like, Trump did fucking great in this interview.
Yeah, he's very telegenic. That's the thing that like a lot of people, I guess, refuse to factor in for some weird reason is that, yeah, he definitely rambles on. He likes to call it the weave. And even Joe Rogan made fun of him for that a little bit in the process. But like, there is something to be said about a relatively telegenic person who is able to portray himself as, I like to call it honestly dishonest, where like everybody knows he's a bit of a scumbag.
I like to call it honestly dishonest. God damn, that's such an ingenious... what an ingenious way to put that. I wonder if that was ever a thing. I wonder if that was ever like one of the most popular.
And I'm watching the news now. They're declaring the end of the Trump era. Now, okay, I can see how in New York you might believe this is the end of his era. I'm just being honest with you. I live in Ohio amongst the poor whites. A lot of you don't understand why Trump was so popular, but I get it because I hear it every day. He's very loved. And the reason he's loved is because people in Ohio have never seen somebody like him. He's what I call an honest liar. Well, I'm not joking right now. He's an honest liar. That first debate.
What an original take. Good one.
Who is able to portray himself as, I like to call it honestly dishonest, where like everybody knows he's a bit of a scumbag, but he's your scumbag. And he's able to get that across to a lot of people. And I don't think that there is really anyone with that level of television presence on the Democratic Party front. I think like the most skilled orator in the Democratic Party's ranks in the last couple of decades was obviously
Barack
Obama. And outside of that, I think like in a lot of instances, purely from optics point of view, Democrats track is like technocratic, elitist, too serious about everything that they talk about. And there's certainly a lot of that on the Republican Party side as well. And we've seen failed initiatives from establishment Republicans that tried to recreate the Trump phenomenon with the likes of Ron DeSantis, and that was a massive failure. But ultimately, I think this goes beyond podcasts. This is something that I've been talking about quite frequently. I know the podcast thing is like the most, like that's the one that got everyone's attention. But I said this on CNN last night that you can't really podcast your way out of this problem. Like having, there was that one tweet saying like, oh, we just got to have 100 Pod Save Americas, but they all have to look like Hassan. Like that's not how this works.
Oh, you think that one tweet might have been wrong? But the yeah, like I guess so. I agree with that. It became the couple kind of like, I don't know, like just have had this devastating loss to Trump, and everybody's looking for these sort of little explanations that all feel like they just feel silly. Like, oh, we need a Joe Rogan of the left, and even saying like I don't even want to talk about how stupid that is anymore because even that has become stupid. But I do agree that like people are like, oh well, she should have gone on Rogan. All right, yeah, sure, I think so too.
That would not have changed the outcome of this election.
There's a larger problem to what you're getting at, which is like, why don't we have figures and where like we think they would do great on that show, and why is someone like Joe Rogan now, who was 4 years ago open to Bernie, now suddenly open to Trump? Like that's the deeper problem.
Yeah, these are better questions. That's true.
Like you look at like successful Democratic messengers or progressive messengers over the last like decades, and you think, all right, well, Bill Clinton obviously was successful and he like ran against the Democratic Party in some way. Barack Obama did the same thing. Bernie does the same thing. AOC does the same thing. I'm not talking about on policy.
You don't mean it like also in the same direction of running against?
No, but running against the establishment in some way. And just saying, and the reason I connect them is because they all did something which is demonstrated that they were not part of the Democratic establishment, both like on policy and rhetorically, right? Like that's what they all did. And I'm just wondering like like on policy, something which is demonstrated that they were not part of the Democratic establishment, both like on policy and rhetorically, right? Like that's what they all did. And I'm just wondering like the one place where like I know you like find, there's a place where there's like kind of an alignment of like the Seth Moulton critique of the Democratic Party and the lefty critique of the Democratic Party, which is just like, it's fucking annoying and like kind of, I don't know, like pedantic in some way.
It's an incorrect interpretation, an incorrect autopsy to look back at a thing that the Democratic Party did not do at all and then say it's actually that reason. It's not anything that we did so far. It's not that we tacked to the right over and over again, despite people like myself and many others saying like, don't do this, you're going to hemorrhage the base, you're going to hemorrhage the base of support, you are going to cut away at your turnout, you're going to cut across many different constituencies that you rely on to create an effective coalition. And it's a very dangerous gamble to assume that you can decouple a lot of these people in the suburbs, a lot of like white women specifically, away from the Republican Party and vote for you instead. I know that they're high propensity voters, but it doesn't matter. There's still plenty of low propensity voters that you have to rely on to win. And that's precisely what the Democratic Party did. They hyper-focused on these key constituencies, despite the fact that polls were seemingly deadlocked after $30 million of ad spend.
Why did they hyper-focus on these key constituencies when they should have just talked about the Gaza war the entire time? They should have talked about my issue, the thing that I care about.
Key suburbs, right? Like, it showed, at least, I said this time and time again, it showed someone from the outside looking in that the message was not working. And you can have the best ground game possible. You can have, hundreds of thousands of people all across the country door knocking. But if the top-down message that you're communicating is not resonating with people, then you're not going to be able to win an election. You're not going to have the effective turnout necessary to win this election. And that is precisely what happened. Now, does that mean that Trump's messaging was good? Of course not. It wasn't. It was actually pretty bad. And I would even go so far as to say the anti-trans ads were actually a distraction and not good. It was only effective in the DC bubble, I think, and the consultant bubble and the media class that saw those ads and were like, oh my God, this is an incredible ad. Like, they really ruined Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris had a silly answer to an ACLU questionnaire.
Is there any way to discredit people like Hassan so that they can't destroy the party? There's... I'm trying to think of the analogy. Is it like the king has no clothes? If everybody is willing to play a game, then there's no way that you can really counter it. So like if you have people in media who don't do any homework or research on things and they just get passed shit by interns or whatever, then I mean like there's nothing you can really do about it, right? My guess is this guy's probably never watched a Hassan stream before. He doesn't know anything about him. He doesn't know anything about his positions. He was probably told things about him. He's like, oh sure, yeah, bring him on or whatever and have him, come chat. That'd be my guess. So I mean like if this is the level of responsibility or accountability you have for programs, then I mean there's nothing you can really do.
And I'm just wondering like,
but if the top-down message that you're communicating is not resonating with people, then you're not going to be able to win an election. You're not going to have the effective turnout necessary to win this election. And that is precisely what happened. Now, does that mean that Trump's messaging was good? Of course not. It wasn't. It was actually pretty bad. And I would even go so far as to say the anti-trans ads were actually a distraction and not good. It was only effective in the DC bubble, I think, and the consultant bubble and the media class that saw those ads and were like, oh my God, this is an incredible ad. Like, they really ruined Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris had a silly answer to an ACLU questionnaire, okay? That just shows that.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if those anti-trans Republican ads were probably pretty effective outside of the DC bubble, but they just because I feel like I've seen, was it exit polling or whatever, that there were certain like woke issues or culture wars issues that like motivate or, energize people a fuck ton.
That she is not the most experienced politician. This was all the way back in, I believe, 2020, right? She literally had to drop out of the primary anyway at that time. That's one thing, okay? But that should not be a campaign killer. If you personally think that that's a campaign killer, then your campaign is weak. This message across the board should never be able to end a single campaign. Then Teflon Don is real. I mean, the man had the grab him by the pussy tape come out as the October surprise in 2016, and he still won. And since then, there's been a litany of different controversies, including but not limited to straight up undermining American democracy by doing January 6th. And yet people are still voting for him. And one must ask the question, why? And I think overall, the same exact problems that persisted in 2016 when the economy was seemingly very good, right? Especially as opposed to like the post-COVID economy and its recovery. People were still very frustrated with what was going on. The notion that in the wealthiest nation on earth, we have 600,000 people sleeping outside every night. The idea that, we have the concept of medical bankruptcy.
Homelessness was a huge motivator for the 2016 election. Then why is it that the states with the most amount of homelessness all vote blue? What? Like, it's just... it's so stupid. Like, I feel like I'm watching like grade school analysis. Like, when do the professionals come on and do real political analysis? Like, where are those people at? Do they have jobs in this field? Like, why do I have to listen to amateur hour? Like, it feels like being a professional StarCraft 2 player. And it's like, okay, we're going to get the analysis today. And you bring on like 2 Silver League people who are like, okay, well, today we're going to talk about why this guy won or this guy lost the game. And it's like, what? You guys don't even know what you're talking about. Like, why is it amateur hour right now? Like, he's just narrativizing. Yeah, his perspective is he's a far left, like a super radical socialist communist. So every single thing that happens in an election is going to be through the lens of like whatever weird Marxist class obsessive shit that he wants to talk about as a wealthy, rich capitalist who, makes his money as like a hyper consumerist capitalist in the United States, by the way.
Bankruptcy is an insane phenomenon that doesn't exist in any other OECD nation. Like the fact that 40% of the American public or 60% of the American public doesn't have $400 in emergency spending. Like, these are all very real economic anxieties. I'm using that term specifically because it's one thing that people like to hyper focus on that creates volatility, that creates instability.
This is also why I like it when people like give us an example or let's get into the weeds. Let's get into some numbers or some data, because otherwise they're just like stories that you tell yourself to. Does any of this map onto reality? Like just think about things he said. Like, homelessness was the reason why we got crushed in 2016. Well, first of all, Hillary won by millions of votes in the popular vote. Across the swing states, it was like tens of thousands of votes that would have changed the outcome of the election. Hillary was also like the relentless target of Republican smear tactics for literally decades. So I mean, like, and then all the states that are experiencing these problems the most are the states that swung blue or not swung blue, we're our blue, our solid blue. So what are we even, what the fuck are we even talking about here? Like none of this is actually reducible to any reality or any fact of the matter. It's
Typically, because it's one thing that people like to hyper focus on that creates volatility, that creates instability, and it creates a base of angry people. And if the Democratic Party is not addressing that anger and addressing their material problems and earnestly telling them, like, we're going to fix that shit, okay? And the other side is looking at that anger and saying, we're going to channel your anger. You have every right to be angry. And you know who you should be angry at? Those who have less than you. You know who you should be angry at? The working poor, the homeless people that are doing crimes left and right, black and brown people, undocumented migrants that are doing incredible amounts of crimes. They're killing hundreds of thousands of Americans, and trans people. And the Democratic Party only cares about those people. And they don't care about you. And that message resonates with a base of support, not because they are intrinsically evil. That message resonates with a base of support because they're angry, and one of the two major parties is not even remotely interested in addressing that anger and trying to tell them what the solution to that anger actually is and what the real problem is.
Like, it's so funny. Like, it's so funny because, like, Democrats run on and are judged by their policy records, and Republicans run on and are judged by their attack ads. Like, what have Republicans ever done to address any of these fucking problems? Like, did homelessness go away under Donald Trump? Or was the working class exploding and finally, catching up to the middle class and the rich under Trump? Or was, did we do anything about fixing immigration under Trump? No. Did we do anything about alleviate, none of these things get fixed by the Republicans, but I guess they have good ads and good slogans. So for some reason we feel like that's enough.
So I want to break that into kind of how we, the Democratic brand, how we message and all, but also on the policy front. So Joe Biden wins. He tries to kind of build consensus with Bernie. He brings in AOC. He goes to the left on antitrust. He does the Inflation Reduction Act. He does a post-COVID relief bill. He cancels as much debt as he can legally, even though the court is trying to stop him. Mm-hmm. Before the last year.
Ooh, sounds making evil faces right now. Like, oh, don't say anything good about Biden. Oh, he didn't do enough. Oh, he could have done more.
What my view of this is Joe Biden, this consensus Democrat, right? Actually, to the right of the consensus for most of his career, somebody that had to be kind of pulled to where the party was going, did something extraordinary, which is he adapted, he changed, he governed in a much more progressive way than I think probably than I expected. I hope that you expected.
Oh, absolutely.
And it seems as though whether it's because people didn't feel it or people didn't believe it or the way Democrats talk about policy isn't effective, it didn't seem to matter in terms of how people viewed the Democratic response to the economy, right? They were so angry about inflation. They were angry about a bunch of other issues, and it really didn't matter what Joe Biden said or what Kamala Harris said. They were held responsible.
Or what they did. What they did, right? Because it didn't matter what they did. At the end of the day, the policy didn't matter.
Wondering how you explain that, right? It seems as though Joe Biden tried to listen to this exact critique, and it didn't matter.
So yes and no. I do agree. There are plenty of things that Joe Biden did, like beefing up the NLRB and letting the FTC rain hell upon these monopolies. There's two issues there, though. One is, I think, something that you will agree with as well, that the Democrats don't campaign year-round in the same way that Republicans do on key issues, and they do have a massive communication problem. That could potentially be solved by having a more robust ecosystem and more collaboration with even the likes of yourself and maybe even someone like myself as well. And they need to always be on. They need to always be counter-messaging against the anti-immigration sentiment. I went back and looked at my commentary from February of 2021 when the story of the Customs and Border Patrol Haitian migrants getting whipped by horseback Customs and Border Patrol people, officers was in the news. And I remember talking about how the Republicans are going to keep hitting the immigrants are doing crime note over and over again because that's the one thing that they have. And it's built around a complete falsehood that undocumented migrants are responsible for incredible amounts of crime. It's not correct. There is no data to suggest this. The data actually shows the exact opposite. Undocumented migrants are your neighbors. They contribute to the economy in very meaningful ways, and they very rarely take anything in return. Why is the Democratic Party not pushing this counter narrative? And they never did. Instead of pushing that counter narrative, which is based in truth, and talk about how undocumented migrants are responsible for less crime per capita than natural-born U.S.
Pretty sure they do say this, but then we just get Lincoln Riley, Lincoln Riley, Lincoln Riley, Lincoln Riley over and over and over and over and over again. Is it Lincoln or Lake and Riley?
Citizens are, or that fentanyl being trafficked across the U.S. borders are actually not coming in the knapsack of a otherwise law-abiding abuela, but instead it's coming from regular points of entry trafficked by American citizens. 90% of the people that are being apprehended for chemical compounds necessary for fentanyl or direct drugs that they're trafficking across the border are American citizens. This does not track with the narrative that people believe, because the narrative is dominated by the right on this issue. They should have been counter-messaging against that, and they should have been putting bills forward in defense of the moves that, for example, Governor Greg Abbott was engaging in Ron DeSantis. I said this even back then. that this is actually a fantastic opportunity for the federal government to show that there is a more tolerant approach. That one, they should have immediately pursued Governor Greg Abbott legally and arrested him for human trafficking and tried to prosecute him for human trafficking.
Oh my God! It's how much? I'll do up to 30 minutes of this. This is just so cringe. I don't even know who the Pod Save America guys are. They're supposed to be like insightful political commentary, right? Like, is he gonna push back on this idea that, oh yeah, it would have been definitely super electorally popular for the president of the United States to go down and arrest the governor of Texas? Like, does he say anything, or is it just like if I manage to get on this show, is it just gonna be me? I should just like write down the wildest shit in the world. Like, oh yeah, like I definitely think that if Obama or if Biden or if Harris or if anybody else, I think we should have just like missile struck probably like the most dense Republican areas in Michigan and Wisconsin. And I think if we just blew those areas up so that the voters were all dead, I think that we would have had a much better chance in the election, because obviously you've got, way fewer people showing up at the polls to vote for Republicans. Is he just gonna be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's definitely some interesting analysis. Yeah, maybe, like, is that...
care if it's a constitutional crisis or not. All of this stuff was insanely messed up, and the federal government dropped the ball. I think the Biden administration dropped the ball by not adding additional funds immediately, sending additional funds immediately, places like Chicago and New York, and to figure out a better way to transition a lot of these people and integrate them into the American labor force. And instead, they just got stuck in this like legal limbo for no reason.
So why is it that, okay, so Republicans say they sort of lay all these problems at the feet of undocumented immigrants. They say they're responsible for crime. Yeah. No, they're not. But there are obviously undocumented people. They're people, and some are committing terrible crimes, which they then exploit. But for the most part, these are people that not only are committing crimes at a low rate, but actually are unable to go to the police when they're victims of crime. Whether that's a domestic violence, they can't go to the police, or whether that's just sort of the quotidian mayhem of living in America, or a boss taking advantage of you. They can't go to the police, right? Yeah. Then they say, oh, well, they don't pay taxes. Actually, that's not true. They pay into Medicare, they pay into Social Security, and they don't get the benefits of it back. And then they say, well, they're driving up the cost of housing. I do not believe that undocumented people are the reason a house costs $450,000 where it used to cost $350,000.
Yeah, I didn't realize there were executives at BlackRock. The Guatemalan migrants are mass purchasing houses and making sure that everyone's a permanent renter. That's the point, though.
It's not BlackRock either, though.
$450,000 where it used to cost $350,000.
Yeah, I didn't realize there were executives at BlackRock. The Guatemalan migrants are...
The whole meme that, like, it's institutional buyers that are driving up home prices. Like, there are lots of people, there are not many homes. That's it. There are lots of people, there are not many homes. It's a physics problem at this point. When you have lots of people and not a lot of homes, cost of homes are going to go up, 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 up. No amount of rent control, no amount of molding over institutional investors, no amount of tax credits, no amount of anything is going to fix this. Like, that's it. Get the fuck out of the cities, go the fuck somewhere else, or stop crying about the most retarded fucking policies in the world to alleviate these issues. It's not illegal immigrants. It's not fucking student loan debt. It's you either need more homes, you need to change the zoning, or just fuck off and stop talking about it, because there's nothing else is fixing this problem.
Are mass purchasing houses and making sure that everyone's a permanent renter. That's the point, though. But it's not a trans person that's your landlord. It's not an undocumented immigrant that's your landlord that's raising the cost of rent. It's not, your manager is not an undocumented immigrant.
There are two big problems, though. One is there are a lot of people saying this, and it doesn't break through because there is this right-wing media system that puts out this one story. And the second problem is, like, Democrats really don't have...
Do you think a 5-year waiting list in Sweden with rent control is a better solution, or the one who pays the most? Yeah, I'm sorry. I could be totally wrong. I don't know why I would assume that. I know this either. Some of you are fucking retards. 5-year waiting list? My understanding is if you're on a 5-year wait list in Sweden, it's because you're trying to move to a small city. But if you're on like the list for getting into Stockholm, my understanding is that list is like 20 plus years of a wait at this point. Am I wrong on that? Does anybody know? Because I remember when Melina was talking about like the list that would be for different cities, like you can be on a 5-year wait list, but that's if you're moving to like, I don't even know, for like Gothenburg or whatever. But like if you're looking at Stockholm, you're like decades out from moving to a place like that on like a listed, like a rent controlled unit or whatever.
Of trust on this issue with the people that they're trying to persuade to see it our way, which I think goes to the point you made before, right? Which is, why is it that Donald Trump can meander around the country rambling, committing what in any other era would be, if not like campaign ending, like campaign harming, ridiculous statements.
Gothenburg is 10 years plus. Gothenburg. Oh, I can't pronounce it. You're Swedish shit. Gothenburg is 10 years plus. Okay, never mind.
Gaffes, sure. That he can basically be in like a strategic mess. But Kamala Harris has to hit every point exactly right. She says the wrong...
Yes, thank you. Okay, he's hitting points. He's hitting some things. Okay. Why can't... Bros. Listen, I hate all of this. It's just... I don't know what to say. It's so boring. Like, I listened to somebody go on a podcast. I was like, okay, what do you think is going on? I think the problem is definitely the phases of the moon. Oh, talk to me about that. Well, there's a lot of times where the moon is it's out of sync with our economic cycles, and what's happening is like the moon is very bright and it's causing people to spend way less money than they normally would. It's like, okay, well that's definitely a perspective. Thank you. Anything else? Yeah, I think that Capricorns are definitely moving the market in a bad way when it comes to our commodity markets and our futures. Okay, that's a perspective. Thank you. Like at any point in any of these shows, do any of these people ever feel an obligation to pick up a book or read a Wikipedia article or read an Investopedia article or just have like some or like bring up a poll or cite an actual study, not just like the top sentence of the top part of the after, like just anything ever, like just one thing ever, please. It's okay.
Wrong thing on The View, or there's a bad interview from 2020, those things can be campaign ending. And I think to your point, it goes to something deeper, kind of a lack of a like kind of, I don't know, core vision or motivating mission for the current Democratic Party.
Yeah, something that is an understandable, easy to communicate, simple policy that you can put your campaign around. So,
like a $6,000 tax credit for people with children, like a $25,000 first-time homebuyer tax credit, like a I don't know about the business deduction thing. Those tax credits are big deals, by the way. I mean, I guess I don't know. Maybe. I don't know how much they motivate the ordinary person. I bought my first house when I was 19 with my now ex-girlfriend. And part of that was due to the fact that Obama had that first-time refundable tax credit. It was $8,000. I remember that tax credit. That was probably one of that and the FHA loan requirements were the reason why I was able to get my first house. The child tax credits are a big deal too, and they're refundable. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more basic it gets than I will give you money. Here's money. Here's money. I don't know how much more basic it can get than that, but
an understandable, easy to communicate, simple policy that you can.
If it's so boring and stupid, why keep posting on your channel? It's so devoid of any value, and I personally would greatly appreciate never hearing this voice, Hassan's whiny-ass voice ever again, because this is what's in the media. Like, I don't know. I think it'd be interesting if, like, there is a 1 million view episode on Joe Rogan or Pod Save America or whatever, where it's like, oh, like, what are the actual impacts that immigration is having on crime or the economies of the southern states? And they bring on, like, 2 economists to go over, like, dueling perspectives on this, and then we can, like, open the literature and read, like, oh, okay, well, what are our lit reviews saying right now? What's our meta-analysis saying right now? What's the latest data from, you know, the BLS or from ICE? You know, that would be really interesting and entertaining and fun, because then we could like dig through shit. Instead, it's just like, oh, well, here are some people telling you their story and all of it's not falsifiable. So we can't even say if it's right or wrong. And it's just like, okay, whatever.
You can put your campaign around. So we agree on the messaging front a little bit, at least, or the asymmetry of how much.
If Trump kicks out 30% of the construction industry's labor, I'm going to be able to charge $1 million for a roof, and the housing crisis is going to get real. True.
You know, right wing, that is an understandable, easy to communicate, simple policy that you can put your campaign around. So we agree on the messaging front a little bit, at least, or the asymmetry of how much right wing.
I saw there were around 145 million housing units and 86 million homes in the U.S. How many people do you think should it be per home realistically? Sorry, I'm not trying to gotcha. I'm confused. Maybe the number is wrong. I don't understand what you're asking me. 145 million housing units and 86 million homes in the U.S. How many people do you think should be per home? I don't know what the question is. Are you implying that there might be more homes than people in the US right now? The issue is the distribution of those homes. Like if you look up maps of like available housing units maps, like people will always bring up this number of like, where are, you know, there are more homes available than there are homeless people. This is the affordable housing map. Fuck. If you look up where like all of these empty houses are, though, they're like in fucking Wyoming and Montana and Iowa and Arkansas. Like there's not like all these housing units that are available in like LA. Yeah. Owner occupied housing units. Okay, this isn't. Is there substance behind the idea that first-time buyer credits just end up adding more demand from people who weren't in a position to buy before? Yeah, for sure. Housing credits aren't the best way to alleviate this issue, right? There's a very uncomfortable conversation topic that this is a loser. You shouldn't even try to do this if you're running for office. But there's an uncomfortable topic in the United States that it might also be that Americans are way too spoiled when it comes to square footage than compared to Europeans when it comes to living in areas. Anecdotally, I feel like that's true just because I've been through so many European places. But like in America, like the expectation is that at 25 years old, you can buy a house and have like 2,000 plus square footage available to you. Whereas like in, when I talk to Europeans in general, like I'm generalizing really hard between Europeans here. But like if I talk to a European, I feel like under 30, I've never heard the expectation from a European that you should be able to buy a house in the city. I don't know if I've ever heard any European in my entire life say that. The idea is always like, oh, well, if you're buying a house, you're either a trillionaire in a city or you're moving out to the country. I don't know if I've ever heard somebody like in England, in Sweden, in Germany or France tell me that like, oh yeah, like we definitely are upset because, by the time we graduate from school, we should be able to buy a house, in Paris or in London, or at least on the outskirts. Like I've just never heard that before. But in the US, that's like an expectation. In the United States of America, we expect 23 years old, you graduate from school, I should be able to buy a house in New York City, in Miami. I should be able to buy a house in Seattle. I can't do it. Like my life is over. It's completely fucked. And it's like, it's completely fucked. But the idea that you should change that expectation is, that would be like electoral suicide. Can I find like average square footage American apartment? And it's gone up, I believe, over the years as well, right? Or at least I've read that a lot. But the average square footage of an American apartment is 916 square feet. Could I find average square footage apartment in France? Please don't give it to me in meters. This is an AI answer, so the average apartment in France is around 600 square feet, with larger cities like Paris often having a smaller average apartment size due to space constraints. This tweet is what you're describing. Somebody in the comments said this was an average house. How is this an average house? When the tea is that serious, you can't be around no one. Oh. I wouldn't say this is an average house, but I would say that like Americans would expect this to be like an upper middle class to middle class house, unironically. Like I think my parents live in a house like this right now, despite the fact that they're having to draw from 2 different social securities, my dad's full retirement plus disability and my mom's disability, or no, my mom's retirement as well to pay for it. And my dad works full time. Why do you do this? Why do they do this to themselves? I don't know why they do this to themselves. But yeah, this would be like what an American expects. It's just, yeah. But to tell somebody that like, oh, you should like just expect less is... yeah, it would be electoral suicide, but
media dominates the ecosystem, the media ecosystem in general, all the way from independent out.
What would you say it is? I mean, in the United States, I would say 20 years ago, you could probably expect to have like, I think you could have like an overground pool, or what would you call it? Not like built into the earth, but like, I don't know, above ground? Would it just be above ground? Like a separate thing you buy? Like I think most American middle class people could probably do that, yeah. Or would expect to be able to do that 20, 30 years ago. Maybe even still today if you're willing to live like in a suburb, not like in a major city or whatever, but...
outlets down to traditional media where, as far as I understand it, 73% now, I think, of all news watchers are watching Fox News. 73%. That's an insane percentage. That's an insane number, right? So outside of that, though,
Huge American Stuff report. Is that not middle class? What does middle class mean? My understanding is just your average 100K a year family is middle class. That would be upper middle class, I believe. But hold on. To be clear, hold on. I'm not saying that if you're an American that this is like a wrong belief. What I'm saying is that Americans believe that their average, like it just goes to our standard of living. I'm just saying that like if you were to talk to an average European and you were to say, hey, when you graduate from, if you graduate from school, you will be able to afford in a city, in a good area, like a 2-bedroom apartment with rent. I think the average European is like, that's awesome. Like, I'm happy. That's really good. But an American will say, I can't get a house. Like, should I kill myself now, or should I wait until I can take more with me, or what? Like, should I suicide bomb my entire existence, or should I like crash a plane? Because it's over for me. I'm 24 years old and I can't buy a house. Like, it's over. Like, it's done. I thought that one kid that I brought on a few weeks ago, remember when he was like, yeah, I'm 25 and I thought I was gonna be able to get a house right after school, and now I'm not gonna, I have to wait till I'm 30, right? And when Americans talk about buying houses, you guys in chat, if you're European, when you think of Americans buying houses, you might think that like, oh wow, Americans are talking about retiring early or going up to the country. No. When an American says they want to buy a house, an American's saying they want to buy a house in New York City, in Portland, in Seattle, in LA, in San Francisco, in Miami, in Austin. They want to buy a house like near a major downtown city area, like within like a 20-minute drive. Like, that's what an average American's standard of living is. And if it's not hitting that, then like society is literally collapsing. It is tearing apart at the seams that I can't have a 2-bedroom house that's a 20-minute drive from downtown San Francisco. That's where the American standard of living, the American mind is at. Yeah.
I think here is the disagreement that we will have. That while Joe Biden did a bunch of stuff that I agree was positive, it was simply not enough. And that was something that I was always very critical on as well. If you see a homeless person...
Do you support ending single-family zoning? It's a complicated issue. It's a complicated issue, and I have to like dramatically think different, because like what I want in a house, or where I want to live, or what I want is so, I think, potentially out of touch, or it's not synchronized with like the average American, that I'm not sure if like I have no problem living in an apartment for the rest of my life. I think that's fine. I would rather live closer to people, be able to walk to play. Like, after I moved to Glendale from suburbia, I will never ever live in a suburb for the rest of I'll never do that, ever. I would much rather rent an apartment where I can walk out onto the street and do things than like, I need to go to the store. Time to like pack up my car, pack a few changes of clothes, make sure I've got like a new thing of toothpaste, and like, okay, like here we go, off to Walmart or whatever, 20, 30 minutes, and then an hour, 2 hours for the whole event. Like, I don't know, just like the first time I moved to a city from Omaha, it was just like, it radically warped my perspective, or changed my perspective on the types of places that I would want to live. But I don't think I think for a lot of Americans, I'll say this even though it doesn't matter. It sounds like I speak with derision, but I don't really. Like, I understand different people want different things. It's not like bad or worse. Like, it's not like what I want is the good stuff and other Americans are stupid. But for whatever reason, like Americans, the dream or the desire is I want to live in a suburb where I can, go outside and talk to my neighbor and have like my own space. And I mean, I can recognize that to some extent. Like, I remember when I was 19 and I bought my first home, I was like, I'm never, ever, ever living in an apartment again. Fuck apartments. Like, I like having my own space. I can fuck my walls up if I want. I can make as much noise as I want. I don't have to worry about fucking neighbors or any other bullshit. But I've seen the downsides of homeownership too. And one of the annoying things about talking to young people that fetishize homeownership is none of you motherfuckers know any of the downsides, which is so annoying. I debated that one guy, a couple months ago, and I talked about like the liability of like homeownership and how you could file bankruptcy if you, fall behind on your house payments. And everybody in chat was spamming like, oh, out of touch, doesn't realize that millionaire doesn't think these aren't real problems. And then as soon as I say like, yeah, well, my family, we had our house foreclosed on, and my family went through chapter 11, chapter 7, multiple bankruptcies. And they were like, oh, you're too emotionally invested. You don't understand. You're too emotionally involved in this. That's why you have such a bad opinion. I'm like, okay, well, I guess you lose. I don't know. There's ups and downs to everything. At this point, I think as like a rich person, I wouldn't mind owning a home. But if I was like a middle class person again, renting is just so much more convenient. I don't like having to deal with major repairs. When you live in a cold place, and anybody that lives in a cold place, that feeling when the first really cold night rolls in and you wake up and you're shivering and you go downstairs and you're like, my thermostat is set to 74, and right now it reads 62, and you're like, fuck, my shit is fucked. Now I gotta call, and it's not only that you have to call somebody to repair it. There's like a competency crisis in this country. It's not even that you call somebody, it's that you're gonna have to call him like fucking 3 times. If you call him once, he comes out. He's like, oh, it's just the pilot light is, I don't even know what the fuck a pilot light is, but that's always the first trip. They're like, oh, just the pilot light. Okay. All right, dude. Well, here's a $400 bill. Thanks. I don't know what the pilot light is. I don't know how you lit it. I don't know why it's costing me $400 to pay you to do this, but whatever. Here, call us again or something. Okay, so they light that. And then that night, now from 62, now your apartment is 64. It's like, oh, okay, cool. And then they come back and then they'll tell you what's really wrong. Like, oh, we looked at this and the heat exchanger, flux solus capidium is actually broken. And it's like, okay, well, can you replace that? And he's like, well, actually, this unit is out of manufactured warranty, and they don't make the solidarium material needed for these anymore. So you actually have to replace your entire fucking heating system. But I can do like a patch on this part, and it'll only cost you $900 as opposed to the $6,000 to replace it on. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, like, do you want to just like fuck me now, or you're gonna come back with your friends and all fuck me together, or yeah, leave the plug in now and come back later. Just kidding. Yeah, gee, fuck. Dealing with housing shit is a lot. Okay, and I'm not saying that there aren't pros or cons. Okay, there are pros and cons to both sides, but holy fuck, people fetishize the fuck out of different aspects of homeownership, and I'm like, listen, there are good aspects to it. There are bad aspects to it. Just recognize both. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Jesus.
And you chuck them 2 pennies, and they're sitting on the corner of the street. Like, yeah, technically, their material wealth improved by a decent percentage, but he's still going to be mad at you because you.
Home improvement is a bonus for a lot of homeowners. I like fixing my shit and learning to fix shit. I agree with you to some extent, but you have to understand that that's a privileged take. Okay, and I'm not using that as like a bad word. I also like that. But I like that from the perspective of I have the time to learn it and enjoy it. And that's why it's fun for me. It's not fun to try to learn your own shit when you're working doubles or grave, or you have like a lot of hours, you don't have the time, you don't have the money, you don't have the, like, it's different when you're learning something for fun versus like learning and you barely have the time to do it. And yeah, man, when you work a lot also, like the time shit is, this is so weird. Of all the stuff, there's a whole bunch of like little things about being poor or working class that were like traumatizing. Like if you wake up and you have no messages and calls, you're like, did they finally turn my phone off again? Because you haven't paid your bill. Or there's a whole bunch of like little stupid things like that are like traumatizing. I think the worst feeling for me was anytime you got home, the thing that I remember was anytime you would get home and you would have to go to sleep almost immediately and then wake up and go right back to work. Oh man, those were like the most psychologically taxing things. So if you have to go home and you're like learning how to fix a toilet and you spend like an hour on it, and right after you finish this project, you have to go to sleep, and you know that you're going to sleep just so that you can wake up, just so that you can go right back to work, just so that you can get home, and then maybe work on it again, and then go right back to sleep, and then wake up and go back. That shit not a good feeling. So all that to say, I do agree, like the studio stuff that I learned downstairs, that's fun for me. I enjoy that. It's work, but it's also enjoyable. And like learning how to fix things around the house right now is enjoyable for me, but just because I have the luxury of having the free time to do it. But when you're like taxed at the end of like everything you can do and all your time is going into surviving, I feel like it's significantly less fun. But that's just my feeling. Getting that collect or disconnect home visit from some electric worker is traumatizing. Oh, I've never had them visit. Usually they just mail you over and over again and you just ignore all the mail and then they just turn your shit off.
You see a homeless person and you chuck them 2 pennies and they're sitting on the corner of the street. Like, yeah, technically their material wealth improved by a decent percentage. But he's still going to be mad at you because you just gave him 2 pennies. Why doesn't the homeless person understand that their situation is much better? That is not an effective way to communicate to Americans that, like, no, you don't understand. Inflation is actually under control, that the economy is rebounding, even if it's objective truth, because most Americans don't understand what inflation is, and they don't understand that prices are not going to go down in that circumstance. And besides that, and I fact this is not just the vibe session communications, but I'm also talking about specifically like even the IRA or many of these other. How
did you not become a nicotine fiend during your poor arc? Honestly, I've never liked cigarettes. I tried smoking one time when I was a kid and I hated it. Even when I tried weed as a kid, I hated it because weed sucked in Nebraska, bro. Smoking weed, you're like dying and you don't even get high. Fuck that. Fuck that shit. You'd be addicted now with Zins? I don't know, maybe. I was always petrified of all drugs. I was a super successful result of the DARE program. I didn't drink. I didn't do any drugs whatsoever because I thought all of it was going to like rot my brain and make my fucking... Oh, and I was very protective of my mind. For some reason, I don't even know why. I valued my intelligence a lot, even though I fucking sucked at... Well, at least at homework, I guess. Yeah, so I was always scared that, like, how many people learned when you were drinking alcohol as a kid that the brain cells, here's the thing we learned growing up, brain cells never come back. And when you drink alcohol, you kill brain cells. So every time you drink, you're basically like permanently subtracting from your IQ. I'm like, okay, yeah. My wife has ADHD and THC has literally zero effect on her. Could you be the same? There might be some small percentage of the people where THC doesn't have an impact on them. THC definitely has an effect on me though. It was just as a child growing up in Nebraska, just the weed sucked. I'm sorry if you're younger, if you're like 25 or younger, you're not going to understand. You don't even know what bad weed is. You have no idea. The last time I had bad weed, I think it was in Germany because man, Europe sucks for drugs. But nowadays, if somebody passes you a joint in America, you touch it and you're already fucking halfway high. Okay, this shit is so potent. I don't know if they got like BlackRock, scientists that are manufacturing crazy research, Walter White fucking strains of weed or whatever. Or my tolerance is also really low too. But yeah.
But I'm also talking about specifically, like even the IRA or many of these other like parts of the legislative agenda that that Biden put forth that was more progressive than I expected, more progressive than even the Obama administration in many respects. But one, they didn't do a good job of communicating any of those victories, in my opinion. They did not. They did not actually like go to the media regularly to show these victories and to showboat and gloat a little bit. Two, a lot of that was also held up in gridlock because we didn't whip votes well enough. Any of those victories, but even the Obama administration in many respects.
Let me slow this down so I get more properly triggered.
That Biden put forth that was more progressive than I expected, more progressive than even the Obama administration in many respects. But one, they didn't do a good job of communicating any of those victories, in my opinion. They did not. They did not actually like go to the media regularly to show these victories and to showboat and gloat a little bit.
I mean, I think they tried to, but there's just no friendly media apparatus. Like, the media is just there to roast you. That's what's happening right now on this show. It's happening right now on this show. Like,
two, a lot of that was also held up in gridlock because we didn't whip votes well enough within.
The Democrats didn't whip votes well enough? Wait, what? What?
Within our own party, and I think that there was...
Hey, Dusty, I'm stuck in traffic on I-45 going towards Dallas. Say something to help me get through this. How are you donating to me while in traffic on YouTube? Good luck. Don't crash, homie.
A lot of punishments that should have been dished out to the likes of Joe Manchin and the likes of Kyrsten Sinema, rather than...
What?
Because we didn't whip votes well enough within our own party, and I think that there was a lot of punishments that should have been dished out to the likes of Joe Manchin and the likes of Kyrsten Sinema.
Isn't Kyrsten Sinema not even... Is she not? Did she switch parties? And isn't Joe Manchin like not even running again? What are you threatening these people with? Like what? Like realistically, you've got a guy who's running in one of the reddest, like some of the reddest, most unelectable districts ever. Like,
Boys, where are they? Choose between one life or the other. Your friend, the district attorney.
Where's the...
Look at you go.